Hello and welcome to Season 2 of PeakAlpha Strobe Light Show. In the very first episode of Season 2, we're going to be telling you lots of stories. So get comfy, grab yourself a cup of coffee, pull the rug over your knees, and let's go and meet our next guest and customer from the PeakAlpha family, who is a storehouse of stories, and she's also a former journalist. Welcome to the show, Vatsala. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Anupma. It's a unique experience for me because mostly I'm sitting on the other side as a storyteller, capturing stories of people.
Right.
So thank you so much for having me here in a different role altogether.
Yeah. So you call yourself a story hunter.
Yeah, I used to call myself story hunter,
Okay.
but I'm not able to relate to that word hunter anymore because as storytellers, the world of storytelling is very kind and it kind of irons your edges over the time when you spend a lot of time meeting, capturing, going through the different worlds of stories. It just changes you, and
Yes.
the way I used to define myself, what I do. I was a journalist, then I was a story hunter, and today when people ask what you do, I say I work with stories. I help people, organizations understand their community through stories. I help people make stories, they can use stories in different contexts of their
Yes.
life, identifying their story, helping them come out with their stories, helping them heal through stories. So sadly, I don't have a word right now.
Yeah. So you and I have something in common, is that we both were journalists, right?
Yeah.
And as journalists, we also listen to a lot of stories. How did you get interested in storytelling?
This is around 2011. So I always wanted to be a journalist. I grew up in a house where my father worked with All India Radio. He retired as a senior government officer. And then he's a writer. He's a known Hindi writer. He has written novels, short stories, plays. Behind you there are a lot of books which are all written by my father.
Right.
So, and my mother is a box of stories. She sings stories.
Wow.
For any event, anything in life, she has a story, folk tale, folk story. She grew up in a village. She was the first graduate girl of a village. So her personal story as well as the stories around her. She has stories of seasons, songs, people.
Amazing.
So it was. So being a storyteller was, I think, the most natural form of being for me. And all the people who visited my home were either journalists or activists or writers.
Yeah.
So I thought that, okay, ye ban sakte hai. And then I was very clear. One of my friends from school recently mentioned that in grade 6, everyone was asked that what you want to do, and people were saying doctor, engineer, and at that time I said journalist. I didn't remember that. So there was a lot of clarity on that.
You're one of the few people who became what she wanted to as a child. You became a journalist, right?
Yeah.
And there's a very interesting story as to why you quit journalism.
As you said, that I wanted to become what I wanted to become, and I became that. So I was like, okay, what next? You become that, and I became that it was very fulfilling. I was doing international, like how you are in desk, you are managing shifts, looking after the entire production of that specific day's newspaper. I loved theatre because I was doing theatre in school and college, and I ran a column on theatre where I would interview people doing theatre from different states in India. It was very, very enriching and satisfying phase of my career. But when that phase comes, you think that,
What next?
What next? And something very dramatic happened when I was thinking, what next? I was in a newsroom, and my husband used to live in different city. He was in Bombay. So he was in Bombay and he was visiting Delhi, and we were supposed to meet that night. It was a date night. And my shift was going to end at a planned time. And then suddenly there was a blast in Pakistan, and I had to change the entire layout. And you know how everything changes. And I didn't know at what time I was going to go back. And then I was like, okay, whatever is the number of people, whatever is the toll, it should come to certain time so that I can put it and I can go back doing what I'm doing. And that was the time when I found myself thinking, okay, this is not how I wanted to think about my profession. And we had started to think about having a child. And I was thinking that, okay, this is not the story I would like to tell my child, that, this is how I felt while working.
And then when you were in Berkeley, you started this very interesting project, which I think was the genesis of your storytelling, story collecting career.
Yeah. So after 2 or 3 weeks of being in Berkeley, I was thinking, I went to School of Journalism, I saw what they were doing, and then while coming back, I was like, okay, the admission and everything will start next year. Let me do what I wanted to do. So I took my phone and I started collecting stories of people who were in transition, people who were like me, who were there recreating their new identity. So I started capturing their stories. I kind of worked with different models of story collection, right from starting a food club and meeting women over coffee, or meeting them in different settings, and so that they open up and then they share their stories of
their lives.
While I was doing that, I was fortunate enough to meet one professor at School of Information there, Professor Tapan Parekh, and he was he had a platform called Represent. It was a tech platform for storytelling. I wanted to work with content, and together we collaborated, and then Represent work started. We collected stories of people, places, things, myths. Everything under the sun was story for us. This is around 2012. We did a pilot of it where I traveled back to India. I went to Bihar because I'm from Bihar. I understand language, dialect, stories of that place. I was in my second trimester at that time. And so I carried my recorder. I had my iron pills. I had a jeep. And I had water bottles.
So when we were speaking earlier, you told me a very interesting comparison between women in the cities and women in the village that you noticed.
Yeah.
Can you please share that?
That became the foundation for the next project which I did. So while I was doing Represent, I had to be in villages and cities, and it was a wedding season in India at that time. And when I was in cities, women would show me clothes of their dadis, nannies, lehengas, all traditional clothes.
Heirloom pieces?
Yes. And when I was in villages, the girls would show me jeans and top and skirts for weddings. So I asked them that, why do you want to wear this in the wedding? And the answers were, because we want to come across as we are strong, or we are modern. So in their journey of independence or feminism, cloth was a medium of expression of being yourself, being independent, being strong. However, the women in cities, for them that has changed. Cloth was not the medium of expression. In their journey, something else was. Future Group wanted to understand what the women of 2-tier and 3-tier cities of India were thinking at that time, so that they could design better products for them. They could understand the psyche of women. And I wanted to definitely do these stories because I wanted to tell stories of women from different places. I was on a mission in a way. And it was brilliant. And then we did it together. Then I created this entire network of writers all across India. In Bindi Bottoms, it was not only the women whose stories we captured were different. These were women from all walks of life. They were fisher women to post women to CEOs to teacher to mother to a housewife, 14-year-old, 60-year-old, all across. And I call these stories Loo Time stories for women because I wanted these stories to be short, crisp, and because women work hard. They should be able to, and some women, especially in cities, they got time to check their phones only when they were on pot. So they should be able to flush and finish the story in that time.
Literal 2-minute read.
Literal 2-minute read. and capturing one change the woman is going through, not the entire life, but one change any woman has gone through. Something as simple as that I did one story of a beautician I met in Patna, and I've seen her all my life. And this beautician met me in 2015 and said that, oh, you guys live in cities, you wear everything. You know, this year, now that my son is 19 and I was a single parent, I left my husband, I was not wearing the clothes I always wanted to because people would question me. And I wanted to pick my battles. This year, I have decided to wear a salwar suit. I know the material, I know the color, and I know the tailor.
Wow.
And these were the moments we were capturing. So this was the story, not her entire life.
I believe that everybody has a story, although most people refuse to believe that.
Yeah.
But also there are some people who are great storytellers. You know, you're like listening with rapt attention. We were just talking about Rashdi a few minutes back.
Yeah.
Right? So what, according to you, makes a good story?
Anybody is a good storyteller if you actually... If you give your inner world a permission to come out and sit with you.
Right.
If you don't care about how you'll be seen if you're telling the right story and the true story. So I think that's what, for me, that's what makes any story alive.
Coming to another story you told me when we were having chai earlier is the lovely story about how you fell in love and what your father did. Please tell our audience
Yeah, I was 19 and it was one of the college festivals. I went representing my college there to perform, met this guy I'm married to there, and after 1 year of that festival we had to again go back in that to the same festival to perform. So my father called me to his library and he told me that I think you are in love, and there's nothing more beautiful than witnessing a woman in love. Sometimes all of us spend all our lives and we don't experience love, so you are lucky and I am fortunate that I'm witnessing this moment. But I want you to remember one thing. And I was growing up in Patna. We were 3 sisters. My father made sure that we always knew that there was no option but to work. There was no option but to earn and become financially independent. He said that I have limited resources. I can arrange for education or marriage. I have chosen education, marriage, love, you can take care of. And then in that moment he told me that, but remember one thing, that you'll probably be the first girl in our vicinity who is going to love openly with parents knowing. So make sure that all the dreams you have seen for yourself shouldn't take a back seat. You have to rise in love. You have to do all that you have thought for yourself. Be a double, triple version of yourself in love. So that other people also think that, okay, if their daughters are falling in love, they don't have to be locked up in the room. They can be in love and they can make a career, they can make a living for themselves, they can be good people. Yeah, and that became a foundation, I would say, for my relationship with my husband, because we are both very independent people and we are together. There are many times we agree to disagree with great respect for each other, and that is possible because of, I think, because of this foundation.
So the other story that I'm very interested to hear, Vatsala, is how you became a part of the PeakAlpha family.
PeakAlpha family happened to me. I think it's a story of one human being holding space for the another human being in moment of grief. My husband lost his brother in a road accident, and my brother-in-law used to run a motorcycling company. He had been to Ladakh 60 times, and we lost him in one road accident.
Okay.
And we were grief-stricken. We were in a very, very bad phase of grief. And a friend of mine was visiting and he asked me, how are you doing? What's up? How are you grieving? And at the end of it, he said that I think somebody should take care of some part of your daily living so that you can grieve peacefully. It's like, this makes sense. And he said, you know what I'm talking about? I have recently gotten in touch with one organization, and they are wealth managers, and they're helping me kind of manage whatever I'm doing in my speed. And I liked the idea. I said, I don't have wealth to manage. Then he said, no, you need it, because right now you are in a different mindset.
Yeah.
And he told me that, you should fix an appointment with them. And I said, okay. But he wasn't convinced with my okay. So he made me cancel my all other meetings. And he took me to PeakAlpha, because that was his next meeting.
Okay.
And he was kind enough to not make me wait in the parlor, but took me inside in the meeting. And I experienced people who were Deepshi and Amog, people who were working with him, take him through his entire where to invest, the entire exercise. And I found that very, very comforting. And then that's how, so I think they came to us in a moment of grief, and PeakAlpha held space for us when we really, really needed it the most, when we were not thinking straight. There was someone who was taking care of basics, like when is the policy going to go, how much money, premiums to be paid, how to save for that. They did that all for us.
This is a question that I ask most of my writer friends, because I believe that writers don't want to do anything with money and numbers. So how do you balance the Lakshmi and the Saraswati in your life?
I think doing stories of different organizations and working with organizations who understand numbers, who are hardcore business corporate houses, and helping them tell their stories and helping them bring their heart out. I think they have also helped me understand the importance of Lakshmi, how they look at their Lakshmi. I would say, Saraswati took me to Lakshmi and made me see that, it's important. I am able to tell so many stories of so many people because it is bringing money in some projects, and I'm able to take care of my kids. I'm able to do whatever I want to do with that money, grow my business bigger with that money, take an Ola and go to a client meeting with that money.
Yes, your father laid the seed for that. He said, "Pyar bhi karo, lekin profession bhi important hai."
Yeah.
Thanks for your sharing your lovely stories. I love the story about what your father said about how beautiful it is to see a woman in love, and I think that's one of the most progressive opinions I've heard in a long time.
I wish I can make that available to my children with same ease as he did it for us.
I wish that's available to everybody in this country.
I think
that we should be free to love who we want to.
And I think as parent, because I am a parent too now, as parent, if we keep trying to if we stay contemporary and the peers don't replace us in our kids' life, I think if we keep our lives enriched, if we keep ourselves updated. By updated, I don't mean listening only to K-pop, but by the way, because that's what my son has been listening. So he loves Beatles and K-pop. So while I introduce Beatles and I feel happy when he's listening to Beatles, I also have to accept K-pop.
Correct.
So I think that flexibility helps me as a storyteller also in my profession, in all the decisions we make.
Anyway, thank you, Vatsala. Such a delight speaking to you.
Thank you, Anupma. As I told you in the beginning of this interview, it's tough being in this seat. I'm most of the time there.
I agree with you. It's far easier to be sitting in this chair.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'll be more compassionate in the next interview I'm doing. Thank you.
Thanks. After talking to Vatsala, I've realized that we at PeakAlpha are story collectors as well. You come to us with your stories, your plans, your goals, your pain points. We take those stories, edit them, and build strong and powerful narratives and nudge you towards a happy ending of financial independence. I hope you get to share your stories because everybody has stories in them. Share your stories with your family, your friends, your relatives, your community, and don't forget to listen to their stories as well. If you want to hear more positive and happy stories, head over to our website www.peakalpha.com. Our clients are always sharing happy stories of their transformation there. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles. It's PeakAlpha everywhere. Until we meet you next time, keep telling your stories and sharing them. Thank you and bye.